everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Callie and I create all things comfort and lifestyle. I have a very exciting video planned for today. I'm going to do kind of a get ready and also talk about my 5-star reads of the year. Now, the books that I'm talking about, they didn't necessarily come out this year. They're just books that I've read this year that I gave a 5-star to. So I want to share that with you guys. I have all my makeup kind of laid out here, so let's get into it. So how I'm going to do this ranking is I'm going to do my 5th pick of a 5-star to my number 1 5-star by the end of this video. If you've read any of the books that I talk about during this video, make sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you gave the book, the rating you gave it, and why. I love kind of sharing back and forth opinions on books. Also, I'm very open-minded to it, so I think it's a great way to connect with other people and kind of just have an open mind when it comes to reading and what other people are into. So the first book I want to talk about is called Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Now, I read this book in February, so that was a while ago. So I kind of had to, a lot of these books, I kind of had to do a refresh. I had to go on Goodreads and like read the summary. What were the characters' names? Some of them I forgot, but the story I know was incredible. It's about this girl named Bree who kind of moves to a small town in Maine, which I loved reading about because I've been to Maine a few times and it's such a beautiful state. So kind of reading about it kind of took me back and I could picture the area and everything. It's about this girl named Bree. She's kind of running away from a darker past and she kind of wants to start over. And she meets this boy named Archer who she doesn't realize he has a disability. He's deaf. And when she first meets him, her dog, there's a dog in the book. I know when there's an animal in the book that the book is automatically going to be good. Also, a little PSA, I'm not going to be giving any spoiler alerts when I'm talking about these books. I'm just going to kind of give a quick summary and just kind of tell you the story of, what I remember and what I loved about it. But yeah, no spoilers. So anyway, this girl moves to a small town in Maine. She meets Archer, who is deaf. He can't hear. And they kind of have a really cute meet cute, scenario that happens when they first meet. And Archer kind of has a troubled past. There's a lot of abuse there, domestic violence and things like that, which that's no secret. That's kind of in the summary of the book. But so he's kind of isolated himself from society and she comes in and kind of pulls him out of his shell and they form this really beautiful friendship. And in that friendship, a romance kind of starts to blossom a little bit. And I will say this, the spice level in this book it's high and I didn't expect it. I was like, holy moly, the man can't hear, but he knows other ways. Anyway, the reason I gave the book a 5-star was the build up of the characters, the setting, the message behind the story. It wasn't just a love story, but it's also, there's a bigger message behind it. And that's something I really look for when I'm reading a book. I kind of want there to be an underlying message, something more in depth of the story. So that's really why I gave Archer's Voice a 5-star. If you've read Archer's Voice, leave me a comment again and let me know what you gave it, what you thought of it. I'm open-minded to any opinion. All right, the next book I'm very excited to talk about is called Summer Fridays by Susan Rindell. I have never read a book of hers. I saw this book on, I think it was Instagram or TikTok, one of those. And as soon as somebody said it gives You've Got Mail vibes, I immediately went on Amazon, added it to my cart, got it the next day and started reading it. It's about this woman named Sawyer, whose husband is a lawyer. He's working a lot of long hours. He's never home. There's always a project that he's working on. And this is her first time in New York City. Also, this book is based in the summer of 1999 in New York City, which again gives those nostalgic feels and it really brings you back to that time of no cell phones. It was all about, socializing, meeting people. I'm getting so excited. I'm not even putting any makeup on. Anyway, so she agrees to go to dinner with her husband, or fiance, to meet his coworker, which is a female named Kendra. And she brings her boyfriend there, and his name is Nick. Nick's really rude when they first meet. Sawyer doesn't like him at all. He obviously doesn't want to be at that dinner, more or less than she does. And all of a sudden, like a couple days later, he sends her an AOL instant message Which again, that kind of like, that brings you back to like, oh, remember you log up that AOL computer and that noise. That's all I would picture. The you know what I'm talking about. So a couple days later, after this dinner that they have, Nick messages her and apologizes for his behavior at the dinner. And she's like, why are you talking to me? Like, I don't even remember you. So they kind of start to form some sort of connection. She's in the publishing industry and he likes that. So she kind of starts talking to him about her job, about how this is kind of her first summer in New York City. And then you get on the subject of summer Fridays, which I think if you know, you have like, you work a half day on Friday and you have the rest of the day to do whatever. So she tells Nick, I've never done all the touristy spots in New York City. It's something I've always wanted to do. So they kind of have this like agreement. He goes, every summer Friday, like, why don't we meet up and I'll take you to all these spots. So of course, like, they kind of start to form this type of relationship. And trigger warning, like, if you don't like cheating, affairs, stuff like that, don't read this book. But I just like the setting of the book. I like that it was in the 90s. It totally felt like You've Got Mail. It was that sort of vibe, and I really felt like I was transported back to that time period. I just love the story, and I pictured Nick being played by Glenn Powell, and I couldn't be more accurate with the description in the book. And I was like, this is totally a Glenn Powell role. So if they ever make a movie, cast him as Nick. So I won't go into any further. Definitely check it out. It's a great rom-com, nostalgia, 90s, New York City feel. So if you've read Summer Fridays, let me know what you thought about it and what rating you gave it. All right, the next book I'm going to talk about is a very popular 5-star read book. It is called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I read this book back in January. So this was before I read Archer's Voice, and immediately I opened this book, and within like the first 10 pages, I knew this was going to be an amazing story. It's about this girl named Clementine, and she inherits this apartment in New York City from her late aunt, who she was very close with. And it's kind of a whimsical story. Again, it's in New York City, so there's a lot of like neighborhood references, restaurants that are really cool if you've ever been to New York. So I really love that about the story, and a lot of great side characters. So Clementine inherits this apartment, and the apartment's kind of magic. Sorry, I just got like setting powder in my throat. So she gets in this apartment, and the apartment is based 7 years in the past. And she comes home one day and there's a man standing in her kitchen, and she's like, who is this? Like, she kind of freaks out, and his name is Ewan. I hope I'm saying his name right. If I'm not saying it right, I apologize. And he's kind of got a southern accent. He's very nice looking. I also pictured Gabriel Basso playing Ewan. He's in this show on Netflix called Night Agent. If you haven't watched, that's actually a pretty good show. I think there's a season 2 coming out. Anyway, so she's kind of teleported back in the past in this apartment 7 years beforehand. And as soon as she steps out of the apartment, it's 7 years in the present. So I don't want to give too much away because this is such a good book. I still think about it to this day. And thing about me, when I'm done reading a book, I give it away. I give it to family, I give it to friends. If there's a free library, I usually put it in there. This is one of the books I wish I didn't give away and I wish I kept. So her and Ewan form a very sweet friendship throughout the book, and they become very close. And of course, she wants to find him in the present and see what he's doing. And I don't want to give away like what he does or where he works in the city. It's kind of like on a mission to find him. And I won't tell you if she does or if she doesn't, but I loved the whimsical romance, New York City storyline. And I love the name Clementine. Like, what a sweet name. If you have not read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, you definitely have got to read it. Such a sweet story. And again, let me know in the comments if you've read it and what rating you gave it. Okay, so I read a lot of thrillers. I read a lot of thrillers, mysteries, you name it. But for some reason, I'm very picky about giving those books 5 stars, and I don't know why that is. If you feel the same way, let me know, because it takes a lot for me to give a 5-star rating to a thriller. However, I read one this year that was so good. As soon as I started reading it, I couldn't put it down, and it's called None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Now, Lisa Jewell has written some excellent books. I think I've read 4 or 5 of her books. And all of them are excellent, but this one took the cake. It's about this older woman named Josie, and she goes out to lunch one day, and it's her birthday, and there's a younger woman sitting not too far from her celebrating her birthday as well. They have the same birthday, and her name is Alex Summers. She's a famous podcaster. She's very wealthy. She's very well known. And Josie kind of overhears that it's her birthday and kind of has this weird stalker, like, oh, I want to go talk to her. We have the same birthday kind of mentality. So she goes over there, introduces herself, says, hey, it's my birthday too. And, she goes, oh, Alex is like, of course, polite about it. And then she kind of Googles her and realizes, oh, she has a podcast, and contacts Alex, or she sees her again. I don't want to give, again, too much away. And she goes, oh, you have a podcast, I would love to share, I have a really good story for you. And Alex is like, who is this girl? Anyway, so she kind of gives her a little gist of the story that she wants to tell Alex, and right away Alex is like, oh, when can you come in? When can we start recording? So there's a lot of dark secrets, and you don't know if it's a lie or if it's true, or if all of it is a lie or if all of it is true. And the book kind of goes back and forth between the timeline of her telling the story and the recording of the podcast. It was just done and written so well, and the character buildup was really, the way that they were both described, Josie's personality, how she was, and Alex kind of being that aloof, like, kind of, I don't want to say like the call her daddy of a podcast, and also the book is based in London, so you kind of get a feel of the city. Excellent story. You don't see the ending coming. That, to me, is what makes a fantastic thriller. If you've read None of This Is True, let me know. What did you give it? What did you think about it? Just don't give any spoilers away in the comments. But if you do, just put spoiler alert. I don't even know what step I'm on. I'm getting so excited with this book talk. I will say the current book I'm reading right now is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is such a sweet story. Oh my God. I saw that it was young adult, and I don't really read young adult, but I've heard so many good things about this book, and as soon as I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. Very sweet. Definitely would recommend adding that to your to be read list. My last pick of the year that I gave a 5-star read to is another very popular novel that came out, I think, almost a decade ago, and it is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This was my first historical fiction book, and I'm not really, that's not the genre I usually gravitate towards when I'm picking out a new book to read, but a lot of people in my family were like, you have to read this book. Even people at work were like, you've never read The Nightingale? So I picked it up. I could not put it down. It was such a it was an excellent story. I don't want to give too much away. It's about these two sisters going through the historical events of World War II. Kind of goes through, the Nazis taking over France and the horrible things that are just happening. And it kind of starts from early on of World War II and it goes way to the end of it. So you're really getting that timeline of what is happening, what the Nazis are doing. And some of it was so hard to read, but it's such a beautiful story. One sister is more like, she's tough. She's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about the Nazis. Like, this is my home. This is what I stand for. And the other sister's more like, no, like, we have to, they're in charge. We're not. This isn't a secret, but one of the Nazi soldiers comes and moves in with one of the sisters. And that whole scenario, reading through that was crazy. So, I mean, if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. Kristen Hanna is an excellent author. I've read The Women right after I read The Nightingale. That's a book that actually came out this year, and I think it was voted one of the best books of the year. And that takes place in the Vietnam War. So definitely check that one out after reading The Nightingale. So those were my top 5 5-star reads of the year. And again, if you've read any of them, please comment below what rating you gave them, what you thought of them. And if you haven't read them, definitely check them out. I will actually link my Goodreads account in the description so you can follow me on there and see all my reviews and ratings of books that I've read. So thank you so much for joining me today and talking about books. I could sit here all day and talk about books. I love to read. I started reading in June of 2022. And the book that got me into reading was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I will never forget it. And then I read all of the Colleen Hoover books. And then I ventured out to other genres. And we're here today. I read over 100 books within those last couple of years. And it takes me away from everyday life. So it's something I enjoy doing at the end of the day. So if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I have so much more exciting content coming to my channel. And I would love for you to join my little family here. And until next time, I will see you guys very soon. Bye.